If you have not saved $10,000 yet, you are operating in survival mode, whether you realize it or not. You might have a stable job, you might pay your bills on time, you might even feel responsible compared to most people around you. You might look at your life from the outside and think you are doing fine, but below $10,000, your financial life is fragile. One unexpected event can reset you to zero. One mistake can undo months of discipline. One emergency can erase an entire year of effort. One layoff, one medical bill, one car repair, one broken appliance can send you spiraling backward faster than you moved forward. And that fragility shapes how you think even when you are not consciously aware of it. It operates in the background. It influences which opportunities you pursue and which ones you avoid. It determines how you negotiate, how you plan, how you feel about the future. It creates a ceiling on your ambition because your brain knows that reaching too far could destabilize everything. Most people will never save $10,000, not because they are incapable, not because they lack intelligence, not because they are lazy or undisciplined. They will never reach it because they misunderstand what that number represents. They believe it is about money, about hitting an arbitrary financial milestone, about having a cushion for emergencies. It is not. $10,000 is the psychological threshold where your brain stops reacting to financial threats and starts building toward financial outcomes. It is the line between defense and offense. It is the shift from survival to strategy. It is the moment where your relationship with money fundamentally transforms from something that controls you into something you control. And once you cross that line, everything about how you think, decide, and behave begins to change. Let me be clear about something important. $10,000 will not make you wealthy. It will not solve every problem in your life. It will not eliminate stress forever. It will not protect you from hardship or guarantee that nothing bad will happen. Life will still throw challenges at you. Markets will still fluctuate. Expenses will still arise. But it will give you something far more powerful than comfort. It will give you proof that you can control your impulses when it matters, proof that you can delay gratification over months and years, proof that you can build something that does not collapse the moment life becomes inconvenient, proof that you are not a victim of your circumstances, but someone capable of changing them. And that proof changes your identity. When your identity changes, your decisions change. When your decisions change, your trajectory changes. And once that trajectory shifts, everything compounds from there. Uh, Small choices start aligning. Behaviors start reinforcing each other. Momentum builds. And over time, the gap between where you started and where you end up becomes enormous. This is why this milestone matters more than almost any other number in personal finance, not because of what $10,000 can buy, but because of what it proves about who you are becoming. Most people do not struggle because they earn too little. They struggle because they live without margin. Every dollar that comes in is already allocated before it even hits their account. Rent, utilities, debt payments, food, insurance, transportation, subscriptions, and then the small emergencies that never feel small because there is no room for error. A parking ticket becomes a crisis. A vet bill becomes a disaster. A birthday gift becomes a source of stress. When you live like this, your nervous system never fully relaxes. There is a constant low-level tension running through your life, a background calculation that never stops. You are always thinking about what could go wrong, what might break, what expense might arrive next. You might not describe yourself as stressed. You might think you have adjusted to it, but your body knows. Your decisions reveal it. Here's the part most people miss. This is biology, not weakness. When resources are scarce, Your brain narrows its focus to immediate survival. It prioritizes short term safety over long term positioning. This is why people living paycheck to paycheck make choices that look irrational from the outside. They are not irrational. They are optimized for a different objective, not growth, survival. You take the first job offer because you need income now, even if it is not the right long term move. You stay in situations that drain you because leaving feels risky when you have no financial cushion to absorb the transition. You avoid investing because you cannot afford volatility. You cannot afford to have money locked away when an emergency could force you to withdraw it at the worst possible time. You postpone growth because stability feels more urgent. Every decision becomes a calculation of immediate risk versus immediate reward. You are not building, you are defending, you are protecting what little you have. And defense prevents collapse. Defense keeps you afloat, but defense does not create wealth. It just keeps you alive long enough to hope something changes. When you have $10,000 saved, something subtle but powerful shifts. You are no longer fragile. You are not rich. You are not financially independent. You are not free from worry, but you are stable. And stability creates optionality. Optionality means you can choose rather than react. You can evaluate opportunities based on merit instead of desperation. You can walk away from bad situations instead of tolerating them because you have no alternative. The first thing that changes is psychological time. When you have no savings, your time horizon shrinks to the immediate future. You think about the next paycheck, the next bill, the next expense. Next month feels far away. Next year feels abstract. 5 years might as well be a different lifetime. You cannot afford to think that far ahead because the present is too unstable. But when you have $10,000, your brain relaxes just enough to think further out. The constant pressure to solve the next immediate problem eases, and suddenly you can lift your head and look at the horizon. You start asking different questions. What skills should I build over the next 3 years? What career path gives me leverage, not just income? Where do I want to be 5 years from now? What would I need to do starting today to make that possible? Strategic thinking becomes possible because immediate survival pressure has eased. Without security, your brain contracts. It focuses on threats, on what could go wrong, on damage control. With security, it expands. It starts looking for opportunity, for growth, for positioning. $10,000 buys mental bandwidth, and mental bandwidth is where long term wealth decisions are made. This is not a small difference. This is the difference between living reactively and living intentionally, between optimizing for the next week and optimizing for the next decade. And over time, that difference compounds into entirely different lives. The first $10,000 is psychologically harder than the first 100,000, not because of math, because of belief. When you start with nothing, every setback feels personal. You save $500, your car breaks down, it disappears. You save $1,000. You need medical work, it vanishes. You save $2,000. Work hours are cut. You dip into it to cover rent. You save $3,000. Your laptop dies and you need it for work. Gone. Let's make this concrete. Imagine you finally reach $3,000 saved. You have been disciplined for months. Skipping purchases, working extra shifts, building momentum. Then your boiler dies in the middle of winter. The repair costs $2,000. You cannot ignore it. You cannot wait. So you pay it. And just like that, you are back down to 1,000. The progress you fought for over 6 months evaporates in a single afternoon. That is the emotional weight of building from zero. Every step forward feels fragile because the next setback is always waiting. It feels like pushing a heavy object uphill, only to watch it roll back down every time you get close to the top. you make progress, you sacrifice, you delay purchases, you work extra hours, and then something happens and all of it evaporates in a single event. It is demoralizing. It is exhausting. And after enough cycles, most people stop trying. They tell themselves saving does not work for them, that their situation is different, that they have too many expenses, that they do not make enough, that wealth is for other people who started with advantages they never had. They internalize a story that makes quitting feel rational instead of painful. But those early setbacks are not proof that saving fails. They are proof that life is unpredictable, that unexpected expenses are not exceptions. They are the norm. Savings exists to absorb volatility, to take hits without collapsing. The car breaking down is not evidence that building a buffer is pointless. It is evidence that you desperately need one. The difference is scale. Losing $500 when you have 500 saved feels catastrophic. It feels like total failure, like you are back to square one. Losing $500 when you have 10,000 saved feels inconvenient, annoying, but manageable. You absorb it and keep moving. Same event, different psychology, and psychology determines whether you rebuild or quit, whether you see setbacks as proof that the system does not work or proof that the system is necessary. Pause and think about this for a second. Imagine two versions of the same person, same intelligence, same work ethic, same values, but different financial trajectories. Version 1 never crosses $10,000. They fluctuate between 0 and 3,000. Some months they save, some months they dip into it. They work hard. They are responsible by most standards, but they never build margin. Every emergency resets them. Every setback feels destabilizing. Every decision is reactive. They live in a constant state of recalibration, always adjusting, always recovering, never quite getting ahead. Version 2 crosses $10,000 and keeps building. They establish a cushion. They begin investing small amounts. They learn to tolerate short term volatility because they are not dependent on that money next month. They develop patience. They think in years instead of weeks. They make decisions based on long term positioning instead of short term survival. 5 years later, the gap between these two versions is enormous, um, not just financially, psychologically. One negotiates from fear, from a position of needing the outcome. The other negotiates from leverage, from a position of having alternatives. One stays in draining environments because leaving feels too risky. The other walks away when necessary because they have runway to find something better. One thinks in weeks, paycheck to paycheck, bill to bill. The other thinks in years, um, career arcs, compounding trajectory. The gap compounds every year. It does not shrink, it widens. Not because one works harder, not because one is smarter, because one has margin, and margin creates entirely different behavior patterns. Margin creates confidence. Confidence creates better decisions. Better decisions create better outcomes. Better outcomes reinforce confidence, and the cycle accelerates. When you have no cushion, spending becomes emotional regulation. You are not buying things because you need them, you are buying relief. You buy small comforts because your nervous system is exhausted. You eat out because cooking feels like one more task on top of everything else. You subscribe to convenience because friction feels overwhelming when you are already stretched thin. You justify purchases because life feels heavy and you deserve something that makes it lighter. This is not stupidity, it is stress. Your brain is trying to regulate itself, trying to create moments of ease in a life that feels relentlessly difficult. But it is expensive stress, and it is one of the primary reasons people stay stuck in the same financial range year after year. They are not spending recklessly. They are spending to survive emotionally. But the result is the same. The money disappears, progress stalls. Now, watch what happens next. When you have $10,000 saved, spending changes. Not overnight, not dramatically, but steadily. You no longer need purchases to create a feeling of security. Security already exists. The money sitting in your account is performing that function. So when you see something you want, the impulse is weaker. Not because you suddenly developed perfect discipline, not because you stopped wanting things, because you are calmer. Your nervous system is not constantly searching for relief. It already has what it needs. You choose long term progress over short term relief more often, not every time, but more often. And that behavioral shift compounds. Each choice reinforces the next. Each decision makes the following one easier. Wealth building in early stages is behavioral before it is mathematical. If you cannot control impulses, you cannot stay invested. If you cannot stay invested, compounding never works. $10,000 stabilizes behavior, and stable behavior is what makes everything else possible. Before $10,000, investing feels dangerous. If you have $1,000 total and invest $500, that is 50% of your entire safety net. A market drop feels terrifying. A 10% pullback means you just lost $50. And $50 might be your grocery margin for the week, so you keep everything in cash. You promise yourself you will invest later, when you have more, when it feels safer, but later never feels safe enough because the psychology does not change at 2,000 or 3,000, it changes at 10,000. At $10,000, you can allocate 5,000 to investments and still keep 5,000 as emergency reserve. Now you have real separation. Now you can think long term without the constant fear that you might need that money tomorrow. Now you can tolerate volatility. A 10% drop is annoying, but it does not threaten your ability to pay rent. You can leave the money alone. You can let it compound. If $5,000 compounds at 8% annually for 30 years, it becomes over $50,000. You did nothing. You just left it alone. If you invest $5,000 every year for 30 years at that rate, it becomes more than $600,000. This is not hypothetical. This is basic mathematics. But it only works if you leave the money alone. And you can only leave it alone if you are not financially fragile. $10,000 is the launch pad for compounding. It is the threshold where investing stops being theoretical and starts being actionable, where you stop reading about it and start doing it, where the long-term wealth building strategies that everyone talks about finally become accessible to you. Below $10,000, risk feels existential. Changing careers feels reckless. What if the new job does not work out? What if you lose income during the transition? What if you make the wrong choice and set yourself back months? Starting a business feels irresponsible. What if it fails? What if you lose the money you invest in it? What if you cannot recover? Moving cities feels dangerous. What if the cost of living is higher than you expected? What if you cannot find work quickly enough? Every opportunity that requires risk feels like gambling with your survival, because if it fails, you have no cushion, no fallback, no margin for error. So you stay. You stay in the safe job that does not challenge you. You stay in the safe city, even though better opportunities exist elsewhere. You stay in the safe but limited version of your life because you cannot afford the downside. Above $10,000, risk becomes calculable. You can run the numbers. What happens if this does not work? You dip into savings for a few months while you adjust and rebuild. That is not pleasant, but it is survivable. Failure becomes survivable. And when failure is survivable, opportunity becomes accessible. You can take intelligent risks. Risks with asymmetric upside, risks where the potential gain far outweighs the potential loss, risks that could change your trajectory entirely. $10,000 does not eliminate risk. It does not make bad decisions safe, but it reduces the cost of failure. It turns catastrophic outcomes into temporary setbacks. And that difference changes your entire financial life. It changes what you are willing to try, what you are willing to learn, what you are willing to pursue. And those choices compound into entirely different outcomes over time. When you look at an account balance of $10,000, you see more than money. You see discipline, you see patience, you see months or years of delayed gratification turned into tangible evidence. You see proof that you are capable of controlling yourself, that you can set a goal and follow through, that you can build something meaningful even when life throws obstacles at you. And that evidence rewrites your identity. You are no longer someone who wants to build wealth. You are someone who builds. You are no longer someone who talks about saving someday. You are someone who saves. You are no longer someone who hopes to invest eventually. You are someone capable of investing. That shift is not superficial, it is foundational. Identity drives behavior more powerfully than motivation ever will. Motivation fades, discipline is hard, but identity is automatic. When you identify as someone who saves, you make different decisions without thinking about it. You do not constantly battle temptation. You simply choose differently because the choice aligns with who you are, with how you see yourself. And choices that align with identity do not require willpower, they just happen. That shift is quiet but permanent. Once you see yourself as someone capable of building wealth, you do not unsee it. You do not go back to thinking of yourself as someone who will always struggle. The identity sticks and it guides everything that comes next. Once you cross $10,000, the second 10,000 comes faster. The systems are in place, the habits are built, the identity is formed. You are not starting from zero anymore. You know what works, you know how to cut expenses without feeling deprived, you know how to increase income without burning out, you know how to stay consistent even when progress feels slow. Momentum replaces fragility. The third 10,000 comes faster than the second, not because you are working harder, because you are working smarter, because your income may have increased, because your expenses may have stabilized, because your confidence has grown. You start making bigger moves, taking smarter risks, positioning for leverage instead of just stability. Not because the number itself is magical, because you changed and changed compounds. The person who saves their first 10,000 is not the same person who saves their fifth. They earn more, they spend less, they think differently, they see opportunities others miss, they act when others hesitate, and that gap widens every year. Below $10,000, you are playing defense. Your entire financial strategy is built around avoiding disaster, avoiding overdrafts, avoiding late fees, avoiding debt, avoiding emergencies that could destabilize everything. You are focused on protecting what little you have, on not falling further behind, on staying afloat. Above $10,000, you begin playing offense. You start building positions, investing consistently, creating leverage, looking for opportunities to grow instead of just opportunities to survive. You shift from protecting against loss to positioning for gain, from minimizing downside to maximizing upside. Defense keeps you alive, it prevents collapse. It stops you from spiraling into unrecoverable debt. But defense does not create wealth. Offense creates wealth. And you cannot play offense until you have built enough margin to absorb the risks that come with it. Most people spend their entire lives playing defense, not because they lack ability, not because they do not want more, because they never build margin. They never cross the threshold where offense becomes possible. They stay stuck in cycles of recovery and repair. And no matter how hard they work, they never get ahead because they are always reacting to the last crisis instead of positioning for the next opportunity. $10,000 is the shift from protecting what little you have to positioning for growth, from minimizing loss to building gain, from defense to offense. And offense is where wealth gets built. The day you cross $10,000 will not feel dramatic. There will be no celebration from the outside world. No one else will know. No one else will care. Life will continue exactly as it was the day before. But internally, something shifts. You feel ahead, not wealthy, not finished, not set for life, but ahead. You have options you did not have before. You have time you could not afford before. You have breathing room that did not exist last month or last year. And that breathing room is powerful because now you know you can do it. You know the formula works. You know the discipline is real. You know that you are capable of building something that lasts. You stop thinking in weeks and start thinking in years. You stop reacting to every financial disruption and start designing the life you actually want. You stop feeling like money controls you and start feeling like you control money. And that shift in control changes everything. $10,000 is not magic. It will not remove uncertainty from your life. It will not eliminate struggle. It will not protect you from hardship or guarantee success. But it is the single most important financial milestone you will ever hit. It is the point where fragility turns into stability, where reaction turns into strategy, where survival turns into design, where defense turns into offense. It is the foundation that makes everything else possible, the base layer that supports every wealth building strategy you will ever use. Most people never cross this line. They remain in cycles of recovery and setback, earning and spending, progressing and regressing, never quite getting ahead, not because they are incapable, but because they never prioritize building the foundation. But you do not have to be most people. You can decide that $10,000 is not optional, that it is not someday, that it is the foundation, that nothing else matters until this is done. Everything before it is preparation. Everything after it is momentum. And once you cross it, you never think about money the same way again. Not because the number changed you, because building it did. Because the process of getting there reshaped who you are. And that difference compounds for the rest of your life.